Hello friends, my name is Miss Raena and today we're going to be making some crafts. These crafts are all centered around a spring theme. Bugs and flowers and everything that reminds me at least of warmer weather to come. So definitely stay tuned to see how to make a flower out of some paper, a butterfly, and a really cool little crown here. So let's go ahead and get started. And you can absolutely make these with supplies that you have at home, but there will also be kits available at the Cicero library with all the materials you need that you can definitely pick up as well. Okay, so let's get started with our first craft, which is paper flowers. So to make a paper flower, you need a straw, some tape or some glue or both, a circle cut out of paper, and some strips cut out of paper. These can be any color paper you like. You can mix and match different colors, and if you want to make more than one flower, you'll just need more straws, more circles, more strips of paper. So I'm just going to make one with you here. So first what you're going to do is you're going to take your strips of paper and we're going to create a loop like this. Just like this. So you basically want to take the two ends of the paper and you're going to glue them together so that they lay flat like this. So I'm going to take some glue. You could also tape this if you don't want to wait for the glue to dry. That's the only thing about glue is you'll have to take a little bit longer waiting for it to be ready. You could also use a stapler if you have one of those too. So just glue those together and we will set it aside to dry. And you're going to do that with all of your strips of paper that you plan to use. So if you want your flower to have more petals, you'll need more strips of paper, or you can use less if you want. It really depends on how you want your flower to look. So I'm going to keep gluing these and then we'll come back when they're all ready. Okay, so once you have all of your loops ready, you're going to take your circle and you're going to start gluing your loops all onto one side of your circle. So you can arrange these as close together as you like. You can have them really bunched up or you can have them spread more apart. It's really up to you, and you're just going to go ahead and glue those all around. Let me do one here first. So it'll look like this from the front and it'll look like this from the back. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of my loops onto my circle and then we'll see where we're at next. Okay, so once you have all of your loops glued to your circle, it'll look something like this. This is mine here. So you can see I could fill it in more with more loops if I wanted to make it more full looking. But this is what I've got so far. And also, if you want your petals, these little loops here, to be a little smaller, you can always trim them with some scissors, and then your loops will be a little bit smaller. Rather than using a longer strip of paper, we'll make bigger petals. You could also mix them up, have some big ones, some little ones, make it really fun looking too. That would be cool. So this is the front. And this is what the back of the circle looks like with all of the loops glued down. So on this side, where all the loops are glued down, you're next going to glue on your straw. So I'm just gonna put some glue right in the middle and stick my straw on the back here. Press it a little bit, and then I'm actually gonna take some tape and I'm also gonna put that over the straw just as an extra step to hold the straw on there. Since the straw is a little bit heavier than the paper, I want to make sure it doesn't come off. So I'm just going to take a little bit of paper, or tape, and I'm going to cover the back of the straw to hold it on to my flower. So it looks like this on the back, and here is my flower from the front. And that's your flower. Pretty simple, lots of paper, some straws, and you can have a bunch of really cool looking flowers. Okay, so let's go on to our second craft where we're going to make a butterfly with a coffee filter. So for this one you need a coffee filter. I also have a piece of wax paper here to help protect my table because we don't want any color leaking onto whatever surface you're making things on today. You need some water. I'm also using a spoon to drip my water. You could also use a dropper if you have that, or a straw maybe. You need a pipe cleaner. And then I have washable markers here. You want to make sure they're washable because you want the color to spread out with the water. But you could also use food coloring if you have that as well, and that would work pretty good too. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your coffee filter and you're going to try and flatten it out. I started flattening mine here, but you just want to make sure it can lay as flat as you can get it. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just flatten it out a little bit, and I'm going to have my coffee filter on my wax paper right away, just to be extra safe about my table. And then you're going to take your markers or your food coloring, if that's what you're using, and you're going to start drawing on your coffee filter. You can draw something specific if you want, or you can just put color on there and just scribble it all over. That's what I'm planning to do because I want to see what will happen. But give it a try, just have fun coloring on your coffee filter, and then we'll come back and see where we're at for the next step. Okay, so here we are with my colored in coffee filter. Like I said, I kind of just scribbled the color on there any which way, and we'll see what happens. And I definitely am gonna recommend you put your wax paper underneath your coffee filter before you start coloring it. I don't know if you can see, but there's definitely markings on my wax paper from the markers, so it would have gotten on my table if the wax paper wasn't there. So just be really careful about that. So what you're going to do next is you want to drip water very carefully onto your coffee filter. You don't want to pour too much, just try and do a little bit at a time. So like I said, you could use a straw or a dropper if you have that. I'm just going to use a little spoon here and dribble a little bit. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, just a little bit. And you should be able to see the color from your markers starting to spread as soon as you start putting the water on there, which is why you want the washable markers specifically. So it should look really cool. So we're just gonna let this spread out. I'm gonna keep pouring water on here. And then what you wanna do is once your coffee filter is wet, you wanna leave it to dry for probably a couple of hours because you don't want it to be wet at all before you start on the next step. So we're gonna put lots of water on here, and then we're gonna walk away and leave it for a little while, okay? And then we'll come back and we'll do the next step together. Okay, and we're back, and our coffee filter should be nice and dry now. So before we move on to the next step, I do just want to give you a few tips to help my coffee filter dry a little bit faster. I ended up using a few pieces of paper towel, both underneath the wax paper and on top of the coffee filter itself, almost to press out some of the extra water, because I think that I used a little bit too much water, and the paper towels, I think, just help dry it out a little bit faster. And I would also say that you want to make sure your piece of wax paper is nice and big. You want to make sure you have a lot of extra space because the water will spread out past the edge of your coffee filter. So you want to have a lot of extra room on your wax paper just to make sure that water that's all full of your coloring doesn't spread everywhere. So you're going to take your coffee filter, now that it's nice and dry. This is what mine looks like. It almost is sort of pastel because the water ended up spreading the color so much. And it kind of ends up being almost like tie-dye, I think, which is pretty cool. So you're going to take your coffee filter and you're going to press it and scrunch it up into the middle. Let's see if we can do this. So basically you want to pinch the middle so that you have two sides that are going to be your wings. So scrunch it up in the middle. Okay, something like this. So What I just did that I think makes it a little bit easier is you almost want to accordion fold, like if you're making a paper fan, so from each side. So you kind of fold one way and then the other to kind of get the pinched look. I just found that to be easy, but whatever works for you, this is the shape you want. Then you're going to take your pipe cleaner and you're going to fold it in half. I'm just going to hold on to my coffee filter so it doesn't lose this shape while I do this. So you're going to fold your pipe cleaner in half, and then you're going to wrap it around the middle of your butterfly where you have it pinched. So I'm actually gonna take where it's folded in half and just slide that right in the middle. Okay. So I'm just gonna move it around a little bit, and you wanna twist it so that it holds everything in place. And I'm just gonna keep twisting that extra bit, just a little bit upwards. So it looks like that. We still have some left, but it's nice and twisted right at the top here so that everything stays. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take these extra ends and you're going to curl them over to become your butterfly's antenna. And you can do this in any way you like. I'm just going to try and make a shape here. Let's see. Something like that. There we go. And then you can spread out your wings a little bit if they've gotten flattened in the process, just to make it look nice. And then that's your butterfly. I think it's really cute. Okay, so for our third and final craft, we are going to make a butterfly crown. So what you need for this is some glue. You're going to take some of your butterfly cutouts. I have markers here, but you could use crayons or colored pencils, anything to color in your butterflies with. And then a long strip of paper. So this is a couple of strips of paper that I have glued together. And what you're going to do first is take your strip of paper and kind of wrap it around your head where you want your crown to go, because you want to make sure it's going to fit. Now, if you need more length, if the two pieces don't quite touch in the back, you can take a third strip of paper and glue it onto the end to make this even longer, and then you can measure once that's dried. If you don't want to wait for glue to dry, you could also use tape or a stapler even if you wanted to. So if you're happy with the length, then you can move on to the next step. If it's too long, if you find you have a lot of extra length left over, you could always cut it off with some scissors if you would prefer, or you can just leave it and have it be a little bit bigger or have a little extra at the end. That's totally up to you. I think this is an okay size for me, so I'm just gonna leave it alone with these two. So what you're going to do next is take your butterflies and you're going to decorate them. So you're gonna color them in however you want your butterflies to look. I'm gonna go ahead and do some of mine, and then we'll come back. If you want, before you start coloring them in, you can see how many butterflies you think will fit on your strip of paper. So if you take your strip of paper and kind of line up a few of the butterflies, you can see how many you'll need ahead of time, but that's really up to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and color some butterflies, and then we'll come back for the next step. Okay, so I have all my butterflies colored in here, and I just wanted to show you that I ended up grabbing a piece of blank paper to put underneath my butterflies while I was coloring them, just so I didn't have to worry about my marker running off onto my table, just in case you wanted to try that out for yourself. I found it just made it easier to color in my butterflies. So next you're going to take your strip of paper and you're going to start gluing your butterflies on. So you want to leave about 1 inch or 1.5 inches at the end of either side, because that's where you're going to glue them together at the end. So you don't want any butterflies too close to the edges of your strip of paper. So we're just going to start gluing down, and you want to only glue the middle of the butterfly. So just right in the middle here. You want to leave the wings able to move so that when you wrap it, it'll have more movement basically. So we're just gonna put a little bit of glue, and then we're just gonna put the middle of the butterfly down and leave enough room so that the wings can still move. And you're gonna keep doing that all the way down your strip of paper. And as you glue the butterflies down, it is okay to overlap the wings a little bit. So don't worry about that too much. It's okay if they are a little overlapped. I'm gonna do that here just to show you really quick. So there's my first two. So I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna glue all of my butterflies down, and then you're gonna have to wait a little while for the glue to dry, and then we'll come back for the next step. Okay, so once you have all of your butterflies glued onto your strip of paper, you're going to wrap it around, and you're going to glue the two ends of your strip of paper together so that you have your crown. I'm just gonna put some glue on here and stick those together. And then you have a butterfly crown. You may want to wait for the glue to dry a little bit just before you wear it around too much. And again, you could use tape if you don't necessarily want to wait for the glue to dry. But that's pretty much it for the butterfly crown. I think it looks pretty cool. And that's it for our crafts. We have our paper flower. We have our butterfly made with a coffee filter. And we have our butterfly crown. I hope you had fun making these crafts with me today, and definitely make sure to try them out yourself. And if you don't have any of the supplies for these and you want to pick up one of the kits, they should be available at Cicero for as long as these supplies last. So feel free to call or stop in for a browsing appointment to get one of those, and have fun crafting. Bye.